As anyone who knows me knows, I love Whisper the Wolf from the Sonic the Hedgehog IDW comics. It's kinda hard to know me without knowing Whisper, especially with how much I like to talk about her. I mean, heck, I even made a frickin' All Hail Whisper, her version of All Hail Shadow, on my birthday at that one time. And that's just one example of how much I obsessed over this character. And trust me, it does not get better outside of the internet. Now, I already made a video on why I like Whisper, but that video was pretty much just me screwing around. I pretty much put like no effort into it at all. I just wanted to post something that day. And I decided, hey, I should probably make an actually serious video on this. This video idea came to me whenever I finished watching a video made by Dave Ace about why Tangle was his favorite character, which I'll leave the video in the description in case you want to see it. But it also got me to think a little bit deeper about why I like Whisper as much as I do, and that's why I'm making this video. I know the main three reasons, however, I'm wondering, and maybe I'll be able to figure out if there is a secret fourth reason. Now, for this video, I intend on making it into 4 segments, not including this intro part, of the 3 main reasons and also the conclusion of whenever, I finish covering everything. I'll try to leave timestamps in the description, but without further ado, finally, let's start talking about Whisper. A good character needs a good design, and Whisper's design is one of my favorite designs in all of media. Now, personally, I think a good character design needs to work with who the character is as a person, and also needs to be aesthetically a nice design, which Whisper's design, checks those boxes. Whisper as a character is a very shy person, and her design reflects that. Her eyes are usually closed, and she wears her mask quite often, which hides away her face. Whisper is a character that talks more through body language than she does her actual vocals. I think her design really helps encapsulate her more reserved nature, while also, being interesting. Her variable Wispin is also a really cool and interesting item / weapon, especially with how it works with her wisps and, just the general Wispin thing. Something else I like about her Wispin is the fact that it just looks incomplete, which, spoiler alert, is kind of because it is. It's a prototype. It was never finished. It kind of just adds that little bit more tragedy to her. Going back to Whisper herself's design, and her color palette actually works quite nicely together. Generally has softer and darker colors, which again works pretty well with how reserved she is. Additionally, I like her cloak and the wisp capsules that it stores inside. Even though there's 6 when there probably should only be 5 since she only has 5 wisps. However, I think that's kind of more or less just for symmetry. Her mask design is also pretty cool, being very helpful for when she has to snipe and also for whenever she has to conceal her face. Her mask pattern around her eyes is also pretty cool to me. I don't really know why, I just kind of like it. I also kind of like her ponytail and bang. It's just a cool design. I also like her eye color being blue. It's just personal preference, I guess. I'm running out of things to say, aren't I? An additional thing I'd like to mention is that I think they get a nice balance in the design as well. I think her design is really badass, but also kind of adorable. And don't fucking take that out of context, okay? Don't. Just don't. One last thing I'd like to talk about is like the concept design she has, which all are pretty good, I'd say, but like none of them are really as good as the final design, I'd say. I definitely think they hit peak when they designed into the current Whisper design. Alright, real quickly before I actually move on to the next segment, I do want to rank these official Whisper designs that are officially released, because, well, I need to discuss them in the design. Whatever. Uh, Obviously, let's just get Base Whisper out of the way first. Obviously, I love her design for the reasons I already specified in the video. So let's actually get into the ones that I haven't actually discussed. Starting with, let's do Lucky Whisper first. Now, I like Lucky Whisper's design. It's a really cool design, but I don't think it's the best design to ever exist. I mean, it has a lot of the things I like about Whisper's normal design, sure, but it also is a little bit messy. Not really, but like kind of. I don't know. It's just like not as much of a design that I'm like, holy, this is amazing, as I am with like normal Whisper, if that makes sense. The cat mask is pretty cool though, but aside from that, like, I think she definitely has better designs. Speaking of better designs, Rider's Whisper. Love that design, not as much as normal Whisper's her design, but like Rider's Whisper is a pretty cool design. I like the big jacket and the color combination and really works and is a really nice color combination in my opinion. Plus it kind of still fits Whisper's personality overall. I say he being much more of a reserved design, similar to her normal design. And then we have Endless Summer Whisper, which I like better than Lucky Whisper, but I don't think it's better than like either of the ones I really love. Personally, I think it's nice color wise, and it works as a summer beach design for the character. It's just not my personal cup of tea, but I do like the little hat band thingy, I don't know what they're called, and the shoes and gloves. A color combination, of course, like I said, pretty good. I like blue and white. Really cool color combination. Valentine Whisper. It's decent enough, actually. Like, originally I would probably have put it in love, but after serious thought, it's just a really messy design, in my opinion. I mean, it's got a lot of like red and gold and stuff, and like the mask doesn't really like make sense. Like, how does she see out of that? I know she like sees with like her eyes closed a lot of the time, but like, I don't know, just the mask is where I draw the line. And also there's just a lot of like small details that kind of make it hard to keep track of. Then we have a Japan fire safety, he whisper, from that one Japanese fire safety ad. And honestly, it's a design I don't have an opinion on. It's not bad, but it's not like amazing or anything. It's kind of just Whisper in a fire safety outfit, well, fire department outfit. I don't know. I just don't think it's like an amazing design for Whisper, but I don't think it was intended to be like some amazing design for the character or anything. It was just supposed to be for the fire safety ad. And then also, let's put this one from Speed Sim into the No Not It category, because I
do not like it at all. It's just one color, just glowing. It's boring. It sucks. I kind of actually hate it. Oh, yeah, I should also cover this one Christmas winter design that Evan Stanley made a while back. I don't remember the exact date or anything, but I think I'll put it in like right under the Lucky Whisper design because I don't think it's a bad design. I think it's a good design. It's not too complicated, and the colors are pretty nice. It's just right. I like the design. It's not a bad design. Color combination is nice. I just am uncertain about the like design, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what about the design and I find to not be as good, but it's not bad. I think it does work with Whisper's normal design and does have the nice color combination that I like. Hey, actually, come to think of it, no, we're putting it above the Summer Whisper design. Never mind. I like it a lot more after talking about it. But yeah, that's basically the list. Well, actually, let's just real quickly look over it. All right, great.
Alright, right off the back, I'm gonna have to say a spoiler warning for a 2018-2019 story that's technically still ongoing since IDW Sonic is still ongoing. So if you want to not be spoiled on that, then I suggest going to the freaking timestamp for the next segment. Anyway, Whisper's story is my favorite story in media, just as her design is my favorite design in media. Whisper's first appearance is Sonic IDW issue 8. In the issue, Sonic starts by running through Arsenal Pyramid. Whisper can be seen as a silhouette as watching over Sonic. Sonic runs through, bashing through Badniks, however the door is almost closing and he needs to get in. Luckily, Whisper is there and helps him with the door, because she is very kind like that. Anyway, later Sonic meets up with Silver, and they're about to be hit by a badnik, but Whisper, of course, saves them. And both are very shocked, but Silver's like, holy shit, that must have been in the guardian angel of the battlefield. And Sonic's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So Silver explains how Whisper had saved him multiple times during Forces, which, yeah, this all ties back into Forces. I know the game sucks, but hey, at least we got this character from it, right? Also, can I just say that I would have the exact same reaction as Silver right here? I just, really like this. Skipping ahead, we end up actually having the boys actually meet Whisper. And she hides away, but then her wisps notice Sonic and they're like, holy shit, it's Sonic. This guy's so cool. And that's what gets her to reveal herself fully to them. Then they decide to all work together, since they all had to deal with this situation, so everything's going well until it's not, and Whisper is trapped under some rubble. But then a full circle moment happens, and Silver saves Whisper. And as we'll see, while this might seem a bit less of an important moment, it's definitely, I think, one of the most important moments of Whisper's story. They then get to the computer that they were all there for, and Whisper tries to destroy it, but Sonic's like, hold on, we need this thing still active. Alright, just chill out, you can destroy it after. And Whisper, it's obviously kind of distressed, but also is like, fine. And even Sonic's like, something clearly is wrong. You clearly have something specific against Eggman. Whisper also appears in issues 9 to 12 of IDW. However, she's not as important as she is here. Something worth noting is that she is willing to work with others here, though, and is also able to meet Tangle, which will be important right now, actually.
Okay, well, actually, first of all, I should point out Whisper's side eye of Shadow, and that will be important later.
Whisper's next appearance would be in the 2019 annual story called Bonds of Friendship. Bonds of Friendship is a pretty simple story since it's an annual story, but it is a pretty good story. It's about Tangle and Whisper agreeing to meet up in Tangle's hometown, Spiral Hill, before the Babylon rogues show up and screw everything up.
Before that, though, I do want to first call attention to this interaction between Tangle and Whisper, because it's pretty important to what I want to talk about with the story.
Tangle shows Whisper around Spiral Hill, and then they come to meet up with Jewel in her mineral museum, which is whenever the Babylon rogues show up and screw everything up. So the rogues commit grand larceny and also accidentally kidnap Jewel, so Whisper and Tangle have to go save Jewel. So they get on the blimp, and long story short, the Babylon rogues are like, you know what, sure, we'll just give you back the person since we didn't mean to accidentally kidnap her. And Shat's like, just throw her out, and Storm's like, alright, and literally does it. Because Storm is too literal, and, well, Whisper has to jump out just to save her. Tangle also takes back all the jewels and jumps out too, and catches onto Whisper, and, well, they all land safely. Then, and we have this beautiful ending, and you can tell that Whisper is actually starting to warm up more, and especially in comparison to earlier in the story. Which then leads into some of my favorite stories of all time, the Tangle and Whisper miniseries. And since the miniseries is literally 4 issues, and I've already spent a very long time on this segment, I'm just gonna speed through this. Issue 1 starts with Tangle and Jewel in Spiral Hill Village, but then Whisper starts shooting at Sonic, or at least it looks like Sonic. So Tangle's like, what the hell is going on? And then Whisper and Tangle throw hands, and Whisper reveals that it's actually a shape-shifting bitch called Mimic, who's a bitch, and I'll tell you why later. And Whisper obviously knows some stuff about this guy, clearly, and Tangle wants to help her search for him and stop him, but she's like, no, but then all the Wisps are like, yeah, though, come on. Then issue 2 starts, and Tangle and Whisper are working together. Tangle also wants to know about the history between Whisper and Mimic, but Whisper isn't really very comfortable talking about it, and so Tangle just leaves it there, and they enter the base that they need to.
As it turns out, Mimic was watching them the entire time and ends up tricking Tangle into getting locked into a safe, which leaves Whisper alone and decides to fight Whisper, and of course Whisper kicks his ass. But then Mimic decides he's to shapeshift into some people that we don't know yet, but it's obvious that Whisper does, and taunt her. But then Whisper just whacks him and is fully ready to kill this guy. But then Mimic pulls out the I have a hostage, and this entire building is about to explode. So fuck you. So Whisper runs off to save Tangle, however, her Mimic runs off to escape the area before it explodes and lock them both in there. So Whisper frees Tangle, but that's around the moment where the bombs actually go off. So Tangle shoves both of them back in there, and closes the door, and as the explosion goes off, they both survive and just get out. Whisper is very visibly shaken up and just tells Tangle to go home. And Tangle who pleads to just let her stay and help, but Whisper finally just snaps. And this is where Tangle just tells Whisper that she's willing to listen to whatever she has to say. And Whisper finally just decides to tell her everything about what happened. And that's where issue 3 of the Tangle and Whisper series starts.
Whisper reveals how she used to work for an anti-Eggman mercenary group called Diamond Cutters, who were also some of her closest friends. The team consisted of Whisper, the scout, Smithy, the crafter, Slinger, the marksman, Clairvoyance the Psyop, and of course, Mimic, who was the infiltrator of the group. And you can probably already see where this is going. You even get to see how they used to work together, because of Whisper's mask being able to record video. This is also where we get the reveal of Whisper's Wispin being a prototype and being made by Smithy. By now, Tangle pretty much knows what happened. However, it's still probably better for Whisper to be able to actually say it. By now, Whisper still can't really say it, though, but she can still show it. In the recording, we see that Mimic is showcasing a plan in order to shut down Eggman's forces. Clairvoyance hence tells Whisper to stay behind, despite the fact that Mimic was saying that all of them were needed on the ground. And little did they know, this actually saved Whisper's life. So Mimic leads them into this room, this very non-suspicious room, and then goes out to do some scouting. As Mimic leaves, these here capsules reveal shadow androids, which then release the shadow androids on to Slinger, Claire, and Smithy. And it's implied that they all get beaten to death while Whisper has to watch. Also, Mimic pretends like he also got Whisper, but he didn't, and that's kind of what leads into these events. Whisper then also explains how when the coast was clear, she went back for the Wisps. Also, really quickly, I want to talk about how important the Wisps are to Whisper, precisely for the reason of them being the last members of the original Diamond Cutters alongside Whisper, and that means that she has much more of an attachment to them. And I just think that's a pretty interesting detail to point out. She also mentions how she didn't actually come up with the name of the guardian angel of the battlefield, and she was just given that name. She doesn't actually care about the name, though. It was never her idea. And also talking about how, despite knowing that Shadow isn't who did the, Shadow Android thing, and she's not saying it's Shadow, it's just really hard to look at Shadow whenever the things that killed her team were Shadow lookalikes. Here, Whisper explains how Tangle is the only friend she's really allowed herself to have since the entire thing, and how she doesn't want to lose Tangle. And Tangle decides, yeah, no, I'm helping you. I'm not laying a friend down here. And here's my favorite moment in the entire miniseries. The moment Whisper hugs Tangle. And this is mainly because, if you remember, Whisper wasn't comfortable being, hugged previously. And now, it's kind of different. The two then form a plan, and when Mimic returns the next day, he sees a message in the sand, which leads to the events of Issue 4. Tangle and Whisper are at the original Diamond Cutters base whenever Mimic sends a full-on egg battalion at them, which Whisper handles effectively, and Tangle heads into the base in order to search for Mimic. Mimic tries to pretend to be Sonic, but Tangle's not going to fall for that, and Mimic reveals how he only actually thought of the other Diamond Cutters as, tools for him, and Tangle and Mimic fight. Then Whisper shows up, and Tangle and Whisper defeat Mimic. Now Whisper is fully ready to kill Mimic, but Tangle convinces her otherwise, and they just instead take him to Tails. Then Mimic tries to rage bait Whisper, but Tangle just rage baits Mimic instead, and they just leave. We then get this very bittersweet ending to the miniseries, and now it leads into, the rest of the Sonic IDW comic run, which no, I'm not covering. This isn't the last part of Whisper's story or anything, but it's what I'm going to be covering. I could just go on, but I'm not trying to cover the entirety of the IDW Sonic comics. I will bring up, though, during the Metal Virus arc, whenever Tangle is infected and Whisper's reaction to it, because it makes a lot of sense given, the entire story I just told you. Despite the fact that, people with zero media literacy want to tell you, oh, Whisper's overreacting, shut the fuck up, okay? Genuinely actually learn how to read, please. Ahem. Anyways, later on, Whisper and Tangle are reunited, and then also later on, they join Lanolin and become the new Diamond Cutters. Blah blah blah. Mimic eventually escapes from his holding cell. Later on, he also kills himself, so there's that. Oh yeah, Whisper also forms more relationships now that she's actually, comfortable-ish. But yeah. Tangle's still the main one. And finally, I should probably cover the 2024 annual comic Shattered Diamonds, which is a story from Mimic's point of view, but it also provides more context on the actual relationship between the original Diamond Cutters and Whisper, and that's pretty important to the actual story. This comic also reveals that Whisper is actually the one who brought Mimic onto the Diamond Cutters in the first place, which makes the inevitable betrayal not necessarily her fault, but it could probably feel like her fault for bringing him in the first place. But anyway, now that I'm finally done with the story segment, I can actually move on to the final segment of the video. Well, not really, but you know what I mean, hopefully. Alright, first of all, welcome back everyone who skipped ahead. Even though you probably skipped most of the freaking video, but who gives us two shits? And second of all, you're probably wondering, hey, doesn't this count as just parts of story and parts of design? And to that I say, I mean, yeah, it probably could, realistically. But, like, I decided to count interactions as its own thing because, honestly, I just think it's different enough to count as its own thing. And plus, it's my video. I can do whatever the hell I want. And also, well, nobody even freaking watches this far, let's be honest. So, like, nobody actually gives two shits. Anyway, this is basically just how Whisper interacts with other characters in the Sonic universe. And I decided to mainly just list off the three main ones that are important as of right now. Because, well, I mean, I'd be here all day and, like, this video is already long enough. The interactions are important because they flesh out the characters and their worlds. With all that out of the way, though, I think it's about time we get into the first interaction I want to talk about, being Whisper with her wisps. Now, admittedly, this interaction / relationship is quite overlooked in comparison to Tangle and Whisper's interaction / relationship, but that doesn't really take away from how important it actually is to the character of Whisper, and her story. Now, you could probably count them as Whisper's emotional support pets, but there's just so much more than that. They're also ammo. Okay, in all seriousness though, they're more than just therapy animals and they're more than just ammo. They're also the last members of Whisper's old Diamond Cutters team, which, is pretty damn important. And they're also the only friends she really had until meeting Tangle. Even later on in the comics, like, Whisper still shows how much she loves the Wisps. Like, they're not just pets or weapons to her, they're friends and family. Also, they all have their own personalities too, which is pretty cool. This also mirrors how a lot of people in real life, especially people with anxiety, can view their own pets, even though, again, they're not just pets, but I digress. Another one that's actually really important is actually Whisper and Mimic. The importance of this one stems from, well, the fact that they're both kind of foils to each other, and also, just the general history between the two that I already discussed. Like I've already said, Whisper and Mimic used to work together. Whisper is the one who actually had Mimic join the Diamond Cutters, which inevitably led to the betrayal, blah blah blah. There's not much to say that I haven't already said, but aside from Mimic constantly, like, trying to kill Whisper and stalking her and shit, yeah, again, there's not much that I have to say that I haven't already said.
Something worth noting is how Mimic ended up causing Whisper to not trust people as easily as she once did. Meanwhile, Mimic at that time had already stopped trusting people and was entirely just in it in order to manipulate people to get what he wants. So they have two different ways of not trusting people, but one of them is just worried, paranoid a bit to trust people, and the other is completely fucking paranoid and just wants to manipulate people at that point. Mimic had seriously traumatized Whisper, though, and also the Wisps, too, which, of course, whenever Mimic finally frickin' died, at least that's what we're assuming for right now, honestly, I was celebrating with them, because, like, fuck Mimic, I hate him. And of course, the final interaction I'd like to talk about is Tangle and Whisper, because those two are a very important duo. Tangle is like that one person who's just like less socially draining to someone with anxiety in comparison to others, if you know what I mean. Like I've already said, Tangle is the first friend Whisper allowed herself to have ever since, well, the events of Mimic's betrayal. And they are always marketed together whenever Sega does market them, which makes sense. They're both like the first two IDW characters, and like they're essentially inseparable at this point. Tangle keeps Whisper grounded, and Whisper trusts Tangle a lot. Like the two actually trust each other a lot, a lot. For example, Chaos Case Files. Well, Tangle trusted Whisper to shoot the right fake Tangle. You really should just listen to the Chaos Case Files, by the way. They're good. Additionally, you could probably find a connection between how Tangle acts currently and how Whisper used to act before Mimic's betrayal. And you could probably make a connection there, honestly. They do act kind of similar. Additionally, it's heavily implied, though not confirmed, that they are very gay for each other. I mean, just look at a lot of official artwork and panels, and like you'll understand what I'm talking about, like by those alone. But anyway, I honestly thought I was gonna have more to talk about, but I guess I was able to actually wrap these ones up pretty quickly. Other important interactions are Silver and Whisper and the original Diamond Cutters and Whisper and Leyland and blah blah blah. But like these three were the main ones I wanted to talk about. Anyway, it's about time I get to the conclusion of this long ass video, isn't it? That's right, it's finally over. This was a long video to make. I went over the 3 reasons I already knew why I liked Whisper, and now it's about time I get into the reason that took this entire video to actually fully figure out. And that reason is autism. Alright, let me explain what I mean by that. Well, alright, to be honest, I was diagnosed with autism at a very young age. This isn't like a new thing, but like for most of my life, I did not actually understand what it even meant. But like recently, I've actually learned more and more about it, and I'm like, wow, yeah, I actually do a lot of that stuff. For example, constant stimming or like freaking hyperactivity, hyper fixations such as hyperfixating on things like Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, that's something that I do. Plus higher levels of anxiety and higher chances of having an anxiety disorder. It's a lot of stuff. I don't need to get into the whole thing, but like all you need to know is that it kind of makes sense the more you think about it beyond just I'm hyperfixated. So beyond hyperfixation, what does the autism have to do with me liking Whisper? Well, really just think back through the entire video. Actually, like, I was talking about Whisper's goddamn color palette and like how nice it was. I was freaking talking about how, like, anxiety, like, you have to realize, like, with the new context you just were given, it makes sense. All of those factors, plus the fact that she's a Sonic character, are all just mixed together to create a character that, of course, I'm gonna like. Heck, I hate saying it, but, like, I actually fucking feel like I can relate to her sometimes, too. Like, I hate saying it because I don't like looking at characters and being like, oh, yeah, that's me, for real, for real. But, like, it it genuinely is a character. She genuinely is a character her I look at and I'm like, wow, she, I feel like I actually kind of relate to her a lot of the time. So, yeah, I guess that's really all there is to it. Like, it's a bit complicated, I guess, but, like, overall, it's that. Part of it is just autism. The other part is, like, I can relate. I don't know how else to say this. Well, I guess the question I set out to answer is finally answered. So, I hope you enjoyed. And, I don't know. If you have any characters that you like, maybe tell me about it in the comments below or something. I don't know. It's It'd just be interesting. And yeah, I guess the video's over. So see ya. And you already know, all hail Whisper.